But first I must have a little assistance from the audience. Ah, there's a nice-looking young man right there.
Just me and you, Jim.
Oh, not me, you, Bud.
Me?
Go on, Bud. It sounds exciting.
We interrupt this program to bring you further details on the shooting of President Kennedy. After the shots were fired and the president was seen to slump over and Governor Connally was hit, the motorcade sped on toward the hospital. It took them perhaps 5 minutes to reach the ambulance entrance of the hospitals. Reporters there say the president was lying flat on his face in the car. A man and woman were seen scrambling on the upper level of a walkway overlooking the underpass from which they believe the shots were fired. Lawrence O'Brien, who is the presidential aide, said he had no information on whether the president still was alive. There are fears that perhaps the shots might have been fatal. There are no details as yet. Mrs. Kennedy, who cried out when the shots were fired, blood was seen on the president's face, was weeping and trying to hold up her husband's head, even when reporters first reached the car. Governor Connally of Texas was wounded. He received shots about the body. He, too, fell over. He also was raced to the same hospital. We repeat, as President Kennedy's motorcade was going through downtown Dallas today, what sounded like 3 shots were fired. The president slumped over. Governor Connally of Texas slumped over. Blood was seen about the president's head. He slumped over, fell to the floor of the car. Police and Secret Service men quickly pulled their guns and rifles, but it is not yet known whether they returned any fire. There are fears that perhaps the shots to the president might prove fatal. He was speedily rushed to the hospital. There are no reports as yet. Please stand by for further details. We return you now to your regularly scheduled program.
A woman's busy life today, her daily aggravations, her hurry-up meals, can cause heartburn distress due to acid indigestion. The answer? Chews. More women than ever now chew chews for quick relief, because this wonderful antacid in chewing gum form relieves heartburn fast and thoroughly in a way no solid antacid tablet possibly can. This was proven by the famous Chews X-ray test with a woman as the subject. X-ray motion pictures of the heartburn area were taken. Based on these X-ray movies, we made drawings for television. See how solid tablets, even in fragments, skip right on through? Now see how Chews medications become a continual flow of relief, because it's in chewing gum form. That's why Chews really puts out the fire of heartburn. Next time your busy life brings on heartburn, put out the fire with Chews, the perfect antacid for heartburn.
Good night, Bud. Thanks again for a lovely evening.
Why don't you just tell me what a dope you think I am? I got it coming to me.
Because I don't think you are a dope.
Anybody who tries to be 19 when they're only 50 and 6 foot tall when they're only 5'7" is a dope.
Well, you know, when you first came to pick me up, I knew you weren't 19.
You mean I didn't fool you at all?
No.
Why'd you even bother with me?
Well, anyone who went to the trouble that you did to impress me must have a lot of imagination.
Yeah?
And not only that, I liked your relatives.
Yeah, well, they are sort of nice. Well, so long, Marissa.
Good night, Bud. Thanks again for the most unusual evening I've ever had.
Just great. You know, I've been thinking, I'm this charming at 15. Just think what I'll be like at 19.
Get in, Casanova.
Well, it was about 4 months ago that I first tried it.
You mean Armstrong one-step?
Yes, to see how it cleans and waxes floors all in one application.
And what did you find out?
It works.
You bet I use one-step floor care. And not just because I get done in half the time.
Oh?
I like the way it gets my floor clean. Not almost clean, but clean.
It really picks up the dirt.
Does it? Just look at that water. Yuck.
One step dries to a beautiful shine.
Does it ever turn yellow?
No. Is it supposed to?
You know, my friends are amazed at how long the shine lasts on my floor. And to tell the truth, I'm amazed myself.
Try modern One-Step. It cleans and waxes. One-Step floor care, made only by the maker of Armstrong Floors, has earned the Good Housekeeping seal and is already used in millions of homes.
She moved straight from the farm to Washington, D.C., and suddenly the whole disarmament question became simple. When she smiles, she disarms everyone in sight, including her boss, the congressman. Oh, that's me, William Wyndham. I'm referring, of course, to Inger Stevens, the farmer's daughter. Join the fun, won't you? Tonight at 9:30, 8:30 Central Time, on most of these ABC stations.
I'm Dan O'Hurley. Doc faces losing Jimmy when he can't prove he's his son to an unscrupulous schoolmaster on the travels of Jamie McFeeters.
7:30 Eastern Time, 6:30 Central on ABC. President Kennedy has been shot in Dallas, Texas. He was shot while he was touring town with Governor Connally in the famous bubble car. The bubble was down. Both Mrs. Kennedy and Mrs. Connally were in the car with them. 3 shots rang out, and the president slumped forward, and Governor Connally remained seated upright. So far, the latest word is that they are still alive. Mrs. Kennedy, as soon as the president slumped forward, she grabbed him, she cradled him in her arms, and she said, "Oh no," and tried to hold up his head. Then the car was quickly taken out of line and sped to the hospital. The president and the governor were rushed to Parkland Hospital near Dallas, the Dallas trademark, where Mr. Kennedy was to have made a speech. Thomas, the latest word is from Representative Albert Thomas of Texas, and he said he had been informed that President Kennedy and Governor Connally were both still alive after having been shot in the assassination attempt.
Excuse me, Don, we have a tape from Bob Clark in Texas. Can we ask for that round?
Thomas, standing outside the corridor of the emergency room in which both the president and the governor were under treatment, said he had been told that the president was still alive, but was in a very critical condition. Bob Clark, ABC's Bob Clark, is switching by, is standing beside by in Texas, and we will switch there for a direct report from Dallas.
For firing the shot. It's most unusual, incidentally, that such a thing could happen because of the unusually tight security measures that are ordinarily taken by the Secret Service who guard the president. And normally, any vantage point, a rooftop, and windows which command a parade route are carefully scrutinized and carefully guarded, and men are usually posted on rooftops along a parade route, particularly if there is any reason at all to suppose that there might be someone in the area who would have such ideas as assassination in his mind regarding the president. These precautions, of course, are taken by the Secret Service for all presidents, as they have been for many years.
I don't know how long the other man has worked.
What type of establishment? Oswald got to the other side of town. Is there anything that can come up of that? Did he get over by a bus, by a car? He couldn't have walked.
I don't know. We have heard that he was picked up by a Negro in a car.
That is not confirmed.
No, it's not confirmed as far as I know.
Are you looking for the Negro?
We would like to know about him. If this is so, we would certainly like to find him.
Chief Curry, could you detail for us what led you to Oswald?
There indeed is a connection between Jack Ruby and Lee Oswald, and that in some manner of speaking, Oswald's murder was to shut him up.
Excuse me, we have a sound on film interview now with one of the ambulance drivers. It lasts a minute or so let's run that now.
Aubrey, what brought you to Parkland Hospital in the first place?
We picked up a patient on North Houston there, an epileptic, and took him to Parkland. We was waiting for the patient to be signed in at the time everything took place here.
What happened?
Well, first of all, these two men come running in. One of them had a large, what appeared to be a machine gun, and they was hollering for stretchers and cots and everything, and to me it appeared that there was some lunacy or something, and then immediately after that, the Vice President of the United States came in. He was very pale. Some Secret Service men was walking him in at the time.
And did the President come in?
Yes.
And then what did they do with the President?
They took him on back to one of the trundle rooms in the emergency room there. Before the President come in, the Governor, they brought him in first.
What happened after this?
Well, then the President come in immediately behind him, and after he come in, his wife was behind him, and they took them all the way, both of them, back to the trundle room at Parkland there.
Can you give us any of the intimate details?
You mean after they brought him in?
Yes.
Well, of course, they run everyone out of the emergency room of the hospital completely on the first floor there, and they told a rider and I to stand by at the rear of our ambulance in case the President or someone had to be removed from the hospital to another hospital. And we stood by there until later on they come out and told us that we would have to help remove the remains into a casket.
Dennis, what happened to the hearse?
We were standing by there. One of the Secret Service men come up and told us that we would have to help putting the President into the casket and getting him to the airport. And at that time, right after he had told us that, Mr. O'Neill came up in our 64 Cadillac hearse, and we unloaded and took the casket into where the President was. And before we put the President in his casket, the President's wife took her wedding band. It looked to be like her wedding band off of her finger and put it on the President's and kissed his hand. And then he left, and we took him out and put him into the hearse. And one of the Secret Service men, about 2 or 3 of them got into the hearse and just drove off and left Mr. O'Neill and the rest of us just standing there.
A few minutes ago, Bob Clark interviewed the mayor of the city of Dallas, Mayor Earl Campbell. I think that tape is ready now, so let's take a look at that.
Mr. Mayor, you know the mood of the people of Dallas as well as anyone tonight. What is the reaction of the citizens of this city to the assassination of President Kennedy?
Well, the reaction this evening is one of shock, is one of grief. And it's one of, they just can't believe it. Because with the tremendous outpouring of warmth, enthusiasm that was so manifest throughout the entire course of the parade route today, And then when this thing happened, it was just unbelievable.
Your police force has done a magnificent job since the shooting this morning. Do you feel that the city did everything possible to give the president complete protection during his visit?
There is no question whatsoever in my mind that every possible security precaution was taken. Every off-duty officer was called on to duty. We had several hundred reserves who were on duty. We had several hundred of the sheriff's department. And not only had they taken every precaution possible on their own, but worked in very close collaboration with and under the supervision of the Secret Service. It was just one of those things that couldn't happen, but it did.
Dallas has become something of a storm center of right-wing extremists in the last year or two. Do you think this could have contributed in any way to the assassination of the president?
I don't want to point my finger at anyone in a case like this. Dallas has its right-wing radical group. It has its left-wing radical group, just like other cities. I think that they're much more vocal than they are numerous. And I can't conscientiously ascribe this. This is not a time to point the finger at anything except just the conscience of the nation as a whole.
You don't think the type of incident that occurred here recently when Adlai Stevenson was spat upon after a Dallas speech could have contributed in any way to today's tragedy?
I sincerely do not believe that it did, because while those people were guilty of terribly bad behavior, I don't think that any one of them involved in that had any criminal intent, nor would they be guilty of anything such as this. I can't correlate the two at all.
Mr. Mayor, thank you very much.
Thank you for permitting me to be with you.
A man who can eloquently sum up the feelings of what has occurred in Dallas, Texas today is the Dallas mayor, Earl Cabell, who gave us this statement earlier tonight. So here is the mayor of Dallas, Earl Cabell, with a statement.
Tonight, Dallas is shocked and stricken with grief because of the assassination of our president, John F. Kennedy. To no other guest in the history of Dallas has such a spontaneous and enthusiastic welcome been extended as was the case for our president. Yet, the irrational act of a single man has tragically marred the spirit generated in Dallas today. All possible security precautions were taken by our police force on their own and in collaboration with the Secret Service. It was a thing that could not happen, and yet it did happen. Still, this is not the time to single out for criticism any individual or any group not directly involved in this tragedy. This could only be the act of a deranged mind. And yet, each of us, in prayerful reflection, must search his heart and determine if through intemperate word or intemperate deed we might have contributed in some fashion to the movement of this mind across the brink of insanity. Mrs. Cabell and I join our city in extending our sympathies to the Kennedy family and to say that our prayers are for them as they are for our new chief executive and our nation and the world.
His vital signs are good now, but we like to observe them for a period of time. This is a routine measure until blood pressure is stable, respirations are satisfactory, and until the governor is fully recovered from the anesthesia. In other words, he's fully conscious, responding rationally to questions.
They're asking now if a bullet was found in his leg.
The bullet is in the leg. It hasn't been removed. This is a very insignificant factor, though. It will be removed. Left eye, but there's no significant injury to the left thigh. Before he goes to the recovery room.
It was asked, when will it be realized? They're not asking, will he stay at this hospital?